Hello, class. This is Dr. T, and I had a question I thought I needed to shoot a video to help you with, and this is one of two videos. I'm going to do a second one shortly and post it for you, but the first one deals with how do we distinguish scholarly sources from popular sources or non-scholarly sources. And I think one example, let me list a few things. First, there are two basic scholarly sources: journal articles and books. Let me start with the books for just a minute. Scholarly books have been written. Here are a few criteria that would be a general guide for you. Scholarly books are written by a renowned scholar in the field. They're usually longer than popular books. They describe a conversation that's occurring around a certain specific topic. And as such, they take into account all the different views on that specific subject. They're typically characterized, for instance, a scholarly work on something like the end times would not be Tim LaHaye's Left Behind series. It would be a work which would show all the basic takes or the basic perspectives of the millennium and all those kind of things. So they're written by scholars. They show all angles or many of the prevalent angles of the conversation related to the topic that they're writing about. The next thing is that they also are characterized typically by tons and tons of in-text citations and a long bibliography at the end. An academic book may be 800 pages, whereas a popular book may be 150. And the reason is they're showing you this is all that's being discussed on this topic, and here's my argument for what I'm adding to the conversation as a scholar. It's usually got a scholarly tone. It's got more formal language, sometimes written in a more third-person type style. And it seeks to add to the knowledge base of the discipline in which it resides. So that would be a scholarly book. Now, from a theological perspective, it could also be foundational. And what I mean by that is church history has been going on 2,000 years now. And so there are certain works that are very old. I think of things like Calvin's Institutes. I think of the works of Augustine or one of the Puritan writers, the works of Richard Sibbes or something like that, or John Owen. Those kind of older books, but are, and the reason that those count is because they wrote it first and they're quoted by a lot of the more contemporary authors. So those are books. So that would be a scholarly book that you might use. But see, those are difficult to get if you're an online student sometimes. So the other kind of scholarly source or resource would be a peer-reviewed journal article. Very similar in the sense that it's written by a scholar in the field. It's carrying on a conversation, although it's not a full treatment of it usually. It's usually looking at one aspect of it. Let's say the sanctification of Hasidic Jews or something like that. It's written in a scholarly tone. It's usually in a journal that's brought out either annually, biannually, or quarterly of the discipline itself. And the main thing is it's been peer-reviewed. What does that mean? It means that it's written and submitted to the journal, and then there are other experts or other academics, other scholars in the discipline who will look and verify and validate that scholar's arguments. It's a refining process. Now, here's what I'm seeing from some of the initial submissions on your proposal. I'm seeing very few, and by the way, let me say this before I say that. Things like your course textbooks are okay as far as this class goes. But you got to remember, things like systematic theologies are typically not the best, or even textbooks are not the best scholarly sources, because what they do is they just simply summarize what everybody's saying in the field. Now, in those works, you can find references that would lead you to the primary scholarly works. But typically the textbooks are okay, but they're not the best. Now, what I'm seeing, though, is many of you are basically looking around your house and you're using books you've used before in your courses here at Liberty and you're not really doing any research. Now, I'm going to do another video where I'm going to show you how to access periodicals and journal entries. But at this point, that's what I'm saying. And I want scholarly works. And you think, well, why, Dr. Hardin? Well, here's what you got to understand. In this program, we're not just teaching you how to counsel people. We're educating you as well. And in order for you to be educated in the discipline of counseling, you have to be aware of the different arguments that are going on or the different conversations that are being held in the realm of counseling. Remember, in the Old English way of looking at things, a bachelor's degree meant you weren't married to any discipline. A master's degree meant you mastered that discipline, and a PhD meant you were actually contributing new knowledge to the discipline. Well, as a graduate student, a master's level student, you're not always asked to contribute to the field, but you are asked to be able to be aware of the conversations or the arguments, the perspectives in the field. And see, with a popular work, you're not getting that. You're getting one person's perspective. It's not been peer reviewed. It's very practical, and that's great, and that's going to help you. But part of the reason you're getting this degree is not just to be a better counselor, it's to be an educated counselor, which will then, when you're out in the real world, it will help you then do research or find sources you need that will help you become a more effective counselor in the long run. So it all starts, it all flows from the academy into the practice. And so you have to understand that you have to be able to be a consumer of academic research. Therefore, you need to be able to identify and obtain scholarly works, and to be able to make those practical in forming coherent arguments and adding to the conversation in some way. So if you have any questions, please let me know. One example, as I'm thinking about before I leave you, of a good scholarly book, for instance, that's theological in nature, would be Tom Schreiner's The King and His Beauty. That book, if you look at the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's written by a scholar. It has several in-text citations of other scholars. It covers all the arguments, tons of footnotes or bibliography, and it's written in a scholarly tone, and it contributes or adds knowledge to the current conversation on Old Testament, New Testament theology related to the Christology with Christ. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll also be posting a video, though, soon on where you can obtain your peer-reviewed journal articles. God bless. I look forward to seeing how you do on this upcoming assignment. Talk to you soon.